What's going on, everyone? I am just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about how Canadians really feel about traveling here to the United States right now. So, today, I want to take a look at this Reddit discussion where a Canadian asked, how do the rest of you guys feel towards US travel? And a whole bunch of Canadians responded to this. So, this Canadian asked, I need advice on a situation that keeps me up at night and gives me anxiety. We're from Canada. My parents have a house near Orlando, so in Florida, and they're spending the winter there. It could be nice for us, me, my husband, my baby girl, to go and spend like 2 weeks as we do almost every year. So this was like a normal thing for them to visit with their parents in Florida, travel to the US. This was something that they did like annually. And now they're saying this year I'm too anxious to go. And, what we see in the news, ICE seems to be able to just arrest everybody for whatever they want and how long they want. It's keeping me up at night. I mean, I've literally done like a couple videos on like the what ICE has done arresting a couple of Canadians. There are specific examples of exactly what they're talking about here. Not to like start up some kind of like fear mongering or you know, that's the sad thing is that this isn't even really an exaggeration anymore. I in the past I would have been like, ICE is deporting like people who are illegally here. That's what they're supposed to do. People who are breaking the law, and this person mentions like adding in the gun violence and the protests and everything in the U.S. The old me as an American would have been like, come on, you're blowing it out of proportion a little bit. Like, yeah, ICE, but that's if you're illegal. You don't have to worry about that. And gun violence, that. I mean, that kind of depends on where you are, to be completely honest. That really depends on where you are in the United States, whether you should or shouldn't be afraid of gun violence and protests. Um, Peaceful protests. Hopefully, that's what I would support, and we should have more of those. By the way, anyway, yeah, that a lot of this stuff, I'd be like, come on, you can visit the United States and feel safe, but now it's like, especially over the last year, you've probably noticed if you've watched some of my videos lately or like in the past 12 months, it's like, I don't know, especially with like, they're mentioning ICE, and it's like, if you know Renee Good and like Alex Petty in Minneapolis, like this guy, he's a nurse who was just like shot dead in the streets by ICE, like pretty sick and disgusting and scary. Yeah, so I don't know. It's kind of funny because I was both intrigued by this discussion here and also kind of like nervous a bit because, on one hand, I feel like this is probably not going to be filled with glowing recommendations to visit the United States, but I think it's really important to talk about this kind of stuff and for us Americans to hear what Canadians have to say about us, because it's also just good to hear an outside point of view. I think, like me, a lot of Americans are starting to get more self critical of ourselves. It's especially like now, it's like undeniable given a lot of the things that have happened. But I'm curious to see what Canadians have to say about this because I will still say, for the most part, here in the United States, most Americans, at least like people like me, I guess, sort of typical average living in like a medium town or city or a small place somewhere in the U.S. Life goes on, it still feels pretty like generally safe if you're just like a normal person living your life, but maybe that's a privileged position that maybe that's not representative of everybody, but it's kind of how I feel about it. But you see and hear all this stuff on uh, TV and the internet and social media, and it's incredibly disturbing. And it's difficult for Americans, I think, to remain objective on a lot of this. So that's another reason I want to see what Canadians have to say about, how do you feel about traveling here, being here? Like, perhaps from a safety point of view. So this Canadian said, I'm boycotting US travel right now. I've spent my life traveling the United States, and now is the perfect opportunity to travel Canada. Wow. I feel like this is probably. I mean, this got a lot of upvotes. Like 1,000 people, 1,000 Canadians seemingly supported this message. A lot of Canadians are boycotting U.S. travel. I've looked at some of those statistics. Like, I think it's down at least 25%, like Canadian travel to the U.S. in the last year, something like that. It's unprecedented. It's a lot, and Canadians are making a statement. This is what I would expect from a large amount of Canadians who would previously have traveled to the US here no problem. Now it's like, oh, boycotting or just giving it a second thought, or perhaps even just like worried and scared. And there's even stuff we've changed at the border, right? Like where you have to sometimes you got to like get searched, or they take your phone or your fingerprints, or I know they're changing a lot of that stuff. This Canadian says I spent a lot of my life traveling the U.S., which is that's very sad to hear. Like sad for us. Like there's a lot of Canadians here on the internet that talk about how they used to enjoy coming here. It was a normal thing. Um, and Canadians have historically been like the number one cohort of people from another country to travel here every year. Now's the perfect opportunity to travel Canada. So it's kind of like F the US, and why not take this opportunity to appreciate our own country, Canada, which makes a lot of sense to me. I've been to every province except Saskatchewan and the territories, and there are so many great places to visit. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, to be honest. Everything is fine until it isn't. Look at your daughter and think about that. Oh my God. Um, and this is from someone named Fearless Travels. They're fearless. They're supposed to be fearless, and even they are like, I mean, you could go, but everything's good until it's not. Um, is that like that saying? Like everyone knows what to do until you're punched in the face, and it gets like when things get real. I don't know if this is quite saying that. This is more saying like maybe you can come to the U.S. and it will be fine. That's honestly what my opinion would be. Is like it will probably be fine. Um, I hope that's true. Uh, but there are literally examples now, many examples of Canadians who have been wrongfully detained, wrongfully imprisoned by ICE in detention centers, like for little to no reason. Some of it was like visa infractions or something, but the punishments certainly aren't fitting the crime. And yeah, and I know there's been people from like the UK or like Norway or other countries outside of Canada, like other people. I've heard stories where they try to come into the U.S. and are just plainly turned away for no good reason. Um, so yeah, I think that's what they're getting at here. Like, yeah, maybe you'll come to the U.S. and everything will be fine, and that's probably what will happen to most people. Um, but are you willing to take the tiny percent chance that something goes wrong? Are you willing to accept that? I guess that's the math problem that every Canadian has to do when thinking about this. Look at your daughter and think about that. Yeah. It's quite emotional, isn't it? When thinking about your kids, and it's like, am I willing to risk a 0.0001% chance that my kid is locked up by ICE, or if I did my paperwork wrong by accident, or yeah. Especially having a young child, given Florida's anti-vax stance. This is a really good point. We're having a bad flu outbreak. Huh. Well, if you don't want the flu, I guess. That's getting a little off topic. No way. I'm a person of color and I feel the risk is too high. Wow. Um, this is like touching on a whole different thing. I mean, let's be honest, here in the United States, especially in the last, it's kind of settled down now, but I don't know if it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago now. I think before COVID, where in the news here, there were a lot of incidents of like black people being horribly treated by the police and is caught on video. And yeah, I mean, in the United States, I obviously can't tell you anything except the experience of a very typical white guy. That's my experience. I can tell you about that. It's pretty good. um, but yeah, joking aside, from what I've heard, yeah, the experience in the United States as a black person or a person of color can be quite negative and quite judgmental. And I don't know, there can be advantages and disadvantages from what I understand. But, I can only understand so much of that. Um, I don't know what it's like in Canada if you're living in some kind of like anti-racist utopia or something where racism doesn't exist, but it certainly does exist here in the United States. I mean, I think we like to think that it's gotten a lot better over the years, but yeah, obviously again, white guy. I can't tell you that too much about that. Maybe your parents could join you on the ski trip if they want to see their granddaughter. They left for winter, so the onus is on them, not you. I wouldn't step foot in the USA. I don't know what this word onus is. Maybe that's a typo or something. But this person's basically saying, I mean, wow, this is very like adamant. Like your parents took the risk of going to the US. I wouldn't step foot there right now. Wow. This is pretty adamant stuff. Like they're pretty. So far, a lot of these comments are blatantly saying, for the safety of your kid, don't go. Which, God, as an American, of course, that's like really disheartening to see. Because, yeah, like I want to feel like I live in a country that's safe and people want to visit, and that we're a first world country, and clearly a lot of Canadians don't feel that way. Ask your parents to join you on a vacation outside of the United States. Not good for us. Not good. Not good. I'll put it this way. I just told my boss that I don't want to travel down to the US for our yearly team get together. Not even for work. Wow. Like, I feel like that's got to account for a lot of the travel that Canadians are still doing to the US, probably because you have no choice. There's a bunch of us spread out over the different cities in Canada and the US. I'm a white, well paid professional male, but I have my opinions, and I've expressed those opinions on social media, and I don't want to run the risk. It's another Canadian who would not visit the US, not even for their job. I live in a Nordic country. Oh, okay. So this isn't a Canadian? Okay, Nordic person. I went to Vancouver to visit my family. Connections, flights to the US were several $100s cheaper. I gladly paid the extra money to avoid connecting in the US. No kidding. That's how you know people like mean it. Canadians, this random Nordic person. It's how you know you guys mean it, because you're literally speaking with your wallet, Like, this person will pay extra not to have their flight go into the US on their way to Europe or whatever. And a lot of Canadians are probably missing out on financial opportunities. This guy won't come here for his job, or like, and you guys won't. Oh, there's a lot of boycott of American goods and services, and I'm just saying, what something is actually striking a chord, like a cultural movement, when people speak with their money. Because as greedy and as that sounds, like I think it's just a fact that human beings, when they speak with their money, that means like there's no BS about it. That is your genuine feelings. If you're willing to lose money to protest the United States, that means you really, really mean it. Um, Personally, I won't go to the United States except for work, and only when necessary. But you'll have to figure out for yourself what you're comfortable with. That seems to be the overarching sentiment here. I can't speak for Canadians, but based off these comments from Canadians, it's like every Canadian has to personally assess like the pros and cons, the risk assessment here. Maybe you can take out like special US life insurance or something. God. Okay, I'm just kidding about that, but maybe that'd be a thing. Um, you do what you're comfortable with, and a lot of Canadians aren't comfortable coming here. Like I said, like for the expense, it's something that a lot of Americans we have to wrap our mind around and accept, and it's not like I don't understand given everything that's going on. I get it, but for a lot of Americans like me, where I live, not much is like changed, in your day-to-day life. It's not like you feel like you're gonna go out and drive to the grocery store and die or get shot in the street or that ICE is gonna arrest you or but of course, like I'm just like a regular American citizen. Like of course I wouldn't worry about a lot of those things, but uh, I think you know what I'm trying to say. Why would you want to go to the US? I'm sorry, but out of all the less dangerous places you could go, why would you still want to go there? Wow. Almost every Canadian here is talking about how dangerous it is here. Wow. I'm a pasty Caucasian. My brother in arms, a pasty Caucasian. And and I've been told numerous times it probably won't be difficult for me. That was, of course, before what happened to Miss Good. Yeah, Renee Good. Oh my God. Maybe you've seen like the videos, like the raw, uncut videos of that woman getting shot in the head in her car in Minneapolis. Unbelievable. That truly, for a lot of Americans, Renee Good and Alex Petty getting shot and killed in the streets. So that doesn't get nearly talked about enough now. It's like that all got blown over by war in Iran and like Epstein stuff. Two American citizens were literally executed in the streets. She was shot in the head in her car. Yeah, she probably like it's probably not the greatest idea to drive your car in any kind of threatening manner towards law enforcement. I wouldn't recommend that. That's not a good thing to do. But should the punishment be death? And that random ICE guy gets to be the judge, jury, and executioner? I think most people would say no. And Alex Petty, not to go on some kind of rant about this, but I just think if you've seen that video, if you've seen that video to completion, I mean that made the US look like Nazi Germany or something. I'm going to be honest. Anyway, it's that kind of stuff recently that I think really opened a lot of Americans' eyes. I think maybe Canadians were already like over it, and now it's just been exacerbated as time has gone on, and it is not looking great for us. It almost feels like the United States has peaked out, and we're starting to like decline a bit, which is so depressing and horrible to think about as an American, but that's how it feels, especially when you read stuff like this, where people outside the US, like Canadians, you're just giving your, objective outside point of view. You have no like stake in that kind of thing. And you agree with that basically. So at least from what I see. So this was very valuable. This was very interesting. A bit depressing, but good to reflect on all this stuff. I don't think a lot of Americans do this nearly enough and sort of face facts, and because that is the first step to us bettering ourselves and remedying this situation in any kind of way is acknowledging problems. So, for that reason, this was good. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts, especially if you're Canadian and you've had to think about traveling to the US or not, or if it's safe here or not, or that'd be cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canadian things that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.